After this, diabetes, the number 3 killer of adults in the United States, causes blindness of all kinds, kidney failure, kidney dialysis, kidney transplant, contributes to the numbers of cardiovascular disease, the number 1 killer of adults in the United States, amputations of toes, feet, and legs for ulcers that won't heal, and gangrene. And most times you really don't have to get an amputation to resolve those problems, but if you insist on getting something amputated, please put a tag on it so they get the right one. You know, if you guys go in for an inguinal surgery operation, you want to get a do not remove sign and put it in the appropriate place. That happens. Okay. Now, when your doctor diagnoses a new diabetic patient in his office, he excuses himself, goes into his private office, drops to his knees and gives thanks to the Lord. Then he jumps up and he calls his real estate agent because he knows over 20, 30, 40 years you're going to go through all these problems if you follow the standard treatment or management of diabetes in human medicine. And as a result, over 20, 30, 40 years, you're worth to him $250,000 to $500,000. It's like adding another cow to the dairy herd. They know exactly how much you're worth to them as a diabetic. And if you don't think that's true, next time you visit a doctor, ask to see his medical business office journals. You know, they have business journals for doctors, and see what they say about diabetic patients and heart patients and cancer patients and how much on the average. That's why people pick certain specialties, because there's big bucks in that area. Now, to me, this is criminal because in 1957, we learned that we could prevent and cure adult onset diabetes in animals by supplementing with 2 trace minerals, chromium and vanadium. Chromium and vanadium. And 11 years ago, 1985, the medical school up at British Columbia, Vancouver, Canada, came out and said that the trace mineral vanadium alone could replace insulin for adult onset diabetics, who again make up 85% of the diabetic population. Science Diet dog food contains 40 minerals in a complete analysis, always contains lithium, chromium, vanadium, and selenium. Ralston Purina laboratory rat pellets always contains a minimum of 28 minerals, and they always contain lithium, chromium, vanadium, and selenium. And I'll give anybody in this audience a crisp new $100 bill if you can find me a human infant formula that contains more than 12 minerals. None of them contain lithium, chromium, vanadium, and only one, Pro-Soybean, the one that has 12, has selenium in it. None of the rest do. They have 11, 10, 9, or 8 minerals. That's why they call Similac Similac, because it lacks everything. Now, if I've convinced you that minerals and nutrition are important to preventing disease and adding health and longevity to your life, you have to be responsible for this, because your doctor doesn't get 30 seconds worth of clinical nutrition in their medical school. And as a result, this is a blind spot for them. It's something they never consider when a person comes in with a health challenge. They never consider this aspect of the disease. Now, you have to know 3 things about minerals. Number 1, there's 3 types of mineral supplements. There's the original, going back since time immemorial, since the beginning of time. There's elemental or metallic minerals. These are things like limestone, oyster shell, eggshell, seabed minerals, coral calcium, things like clays of various types. Tums is a modern version of it. 8 to 12% availability to animals and people. We're not designed to consume ground-up rocks, if you will, to get our minerals. Have you ever wondered why people dread being 50 years old? Why the whole population of the world suddenly falls apart when they hit 50. You know, the teeth get loose, the hair goes, whatever you got left is gray, low back problems, high blood pressure, sugar in your urine, interest in sex goes away. Everybody dreads the big 5-0, right? Well, the reason is our ability to absorb these elemental types of minerals precipitously drops to 3 to 5%. About 3 years ago, a guy in Grand Rapids, Michigan jumps up in the back of the room and says, "Hey, Doc, now I know what I see in my porta potty business." I said, "What do you see in your porta potty business?" He said, "Well, when we clean those things out and disinfect them so we can use them again, we find hundreds and hundreds of vitamin pills that come through people." I said, "Come on now, how do you know they're vitamin pills?" He said, "Well, it's easy. They say Theragram M, 1 a day, Centrum, and Centrum Silver right on the coating. So next time you're on the pot and you hear plop, plop, clink, clink, it's not poker chips coming through there. It's them pills." Are there any chiropractors in the audience tonight? Any chiropractors? Any chiropractors? Raise your hand so I can see. Well, I can't see any, huh? Okay, well, the reason why I ask that is because chiropractors take spinal x-rays. And when a chiropractor takes a spinal x-ray, guess what he sees? He sees all these pills lined up. And if a person tends to be constipated, those pills line up like little boxcars waiting to come out. Come on, let me out. Let me out. They want to get through. And a lot of people say to me, "Doc, listen, you know, are you kind of fibbing to us a little bit here, pulling our leg? I mean, I've taken 2,000 milligrams of calcium every day for 20 years. I take 1,000 milligram, 2 of those 1,000 milligram tablets every day for 20 years, and I still have insomnia, foot cramps, toe cramps, high blood pressure, bone spurs, heel spurs, arthritis, loose teeth. My neck sounds like a bag full of gravel, and I say, what kind do you take? And they'll say calcium carbonate, calcium gluconate, calcium lactate, and that's the problem. Because out of a 1,000 milligram calcium lactate tablet, 86% or 860 milligrams is lactose or milk sugar. Only 14% or 140 milligrams is elemental or metallic calcium. And let's not use these complicated numbers up here for absorption and usability. Let's take 10% of the 140 milligrams. It's an honest number, and also it's easy math. 10% of 140 milligrams is 14 milligrams. So if you take 2 of those 1,000 milligram tablets a day of calcium lactate or calcium carbonate or calcium gluconate, you're not getting 2,000 milligrams of calcium. You're getting 2 times 14 or 28 milligrams. To get enough calcium, to get 2,000 milligrams of usable calcium from a calcium lactate 1,000 milligram tablet, you have to take 30 of those with each meal. You have to take 90 a day. That's almost a full 100 tablet bottle. And the cheapest, the $5 bucks a bottle, it's $150 a month just for calcium. You got 59 more minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 essential amino acids, and 3 essential fatty acids to go. So this is not an efficient way financially to take in minerals, because you got all these other nutrients to deal with. Plus you got the plop, plop, ding, ding factor, you know. And additionally, you're going to develop another physician-caused disease if they tell you to take this type of calcium. You're going to develop what I call BNF disease. BNF disease stands for belching and farting. If you take in 90 capsules of anything a day, you're going to develop BNF disease. You're going to sound like an elephant out in the woods with a horrible belly problem. And you know you got it when your spouse has to throw a canary in the bathroom to see if it's safe to go in there. Now, during the 60s, the animal industry came up with chelated minerals because no farmer is dumb enough to put $1 in an animal's mouth and have 99 cents come out in the manure. So we learned by adding amino acids and proteins and enzymes, which are proteins that do work, to the elemental mineral, it increases the absorbability from 3 to 5% to 40%. And everybody got excited about this during the 60s. And today, because of this research, you'll see a mixture of elemental minerals and chelated minerals in a good multivitamin mineral supplement, a tablet. But the way that animals and people are designed to consume and absorb minerals is in the colloidal form. Colloidal minerals are 98% available to animals and people, 2.5 times more available than the chelated minerals, 10 times more available than elemental or metallic. They're liquid in form by definition. They cannot be powders and capsules and pills and tablets. They must be liquid. Small particle size. They're 7,000 times smaller than a red blood cell, and they're negatively charged. It's one of the unique things about a colloidal mineral is they are all negatively charged, and as you know, like charges repel. So between being a small particle and they repel each other, they stay in suspension forever as long as you don't let the water evaporate. Now the way it's supposed to be is that animals and human beings are supposed to eat plants, and the plants are supposed to take the elemental minerals out of the soil, convert them to colloidal minerals for their own use, for their own metabolism and biochemistry. We eat the plants, and that's how animals and people are designed to consume and absorb minerals. In the plant farm, colloidal minerals, we are not designed to eat ground up rocks. Unfortunately, U.S. Senate Document 264 in 1936 says there's no more minerals left in our farm and rain soils. Unfortunately, in 1992, the Earth Summit in Rio says there's no more minerals left in our farm and rain soils, and plants cannot manufacture minerals. If there's no minerals in the soil, they cannot convert these minerals to colloidal minerals, and they cannot manufacture minerals. Now, what about these long-lived cultures that were written up in the National Geographic in January of 1973? What was special about them? Is it genetic? No, they're all different races, they're all different religions, different cultures. The Tibetans from certain mountain tribes up there in the Himalayas, and the Hunzas in the eastern Pakistan and the Karakoram Mountains, the Russian Georgians, Azerbaijanis, Abkhazians, and the Turkestanis in the Caucasus Mountains in western Russia, and the Vilcabamba Indians from the Andes of Ecuador, and my favorites, I just like the name, the Titicacas, from the Andes of Peru. What could possibly be a common denominator between all these peoples? Well, there are two. Number one, even though they're different religions and different races, they were all persecuted people. They were all victims being chased by the king's men or bandits or whatever, and they chose to live in what would be called the bad lands of their country. I mean, horrible, nothing, no soil, nothing but rock. And just out of the throw of the dice, nothing that they thought about, they picked places to live in that had 60 to 72 minerals in the parent rock of the mountains they chose to live in. Number two, they chose places that had less than 2 inches of precipitation a year. No rain, no snow to speak of. So they had to pick places that had a permanent water supply. And every one of these cultures picked places that were within 50 to 100 miles of glaciers, and they all built aqueducts to carry water from glaciers to their place where they lived and worked and farmed. Now, the water that comes out from underneath of glaciers is not clear, like tap water, Perrier, Evian, or glacier water, or geyser water, or Calistoga water. It's called glacial milk because the water that comes out from underneath the glaciers has so much rock dust or rock flour suspended in it that it's called glacial milk. It looks like whole milk, kind of a bluish-white, bluish-gray, as opposed to clear. And if you boil away a quart of glacial milk, you get 2 inches of minerals in the bottom of that quart jug. By contrast, boil away a quart of Evian or Perrier water at 20 bucks a gallon. I mean, we're talking price here compared to gasoline. Would you ever have thought that water would be more expensive than gasoline? Kind of interesting, isn't it? Now, you boil away a quart of Evian or Perrier water, you'll get as much mineral as you get on the head of a pin. A big contrast. Now, not only did these people drink this highly mineralized water and get 8 to 12% and 3 to 5% after age 50 because it's metallic minerals, it's ground up rocks as these glaciers move up and down the mountains. More important than drinking it, they irrigated with it. Week after week, month after month, year after year, generation after generation, for 2,500 to 5,000 years, they irrigated with this glacial milk. They replaced literally thousands of tons of these minerals back into the soil every year through this irrigation with this glacial milk. And all their plants are rich with these colloidal minerals as a result. And all we do is put in NPK, 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 and it takes 5 to 10 years to deplete these nutritional minerals from our soil. As a result, last year we paid $1.2 trillion, that's with a T, $1.2 trillion for health care. These people don't get diabetes, they don't get heart disease, osteoporosis, arthritis, cancer, they don't get glaucoma, they don't get cataracts, they don't have birth defects, they don't have jails full of violent criminals and drug addicts. They don't have a single hospital. They don't have Blue Cross, Blue Shield, major medical hospitalization. They don't have a single doctor, and they don't have these diseases, and they live to be over 120 to 140. Now, can you live to be over 120, 140 without colloidal minerals? No. Can you get all these colloidal minerals out of our food supply in the United States? No. Well, can you keep all the things that we love about the United States? Because if I were to pay your way to go there and live and guarantee you'd live to be over 100, you wouldn't do it because they don't have Kenmore kitchens, they don't have electricity, they don't have central heat, central air, they don't have roads, they don't have cars, they don't have televisions, they don't have television channel changer. I mean, how can you be a couch potato without a television channel changer? So, can you have all these things we love about America, including health insurance, and still get colloidal minerals? And the answer is, of course, yes. These colloidal minerals are available to you. They've been around since 1926. And of course, they're plant-derived. They actually come from an ancient prehistoric plant deposit. About 1926, there was this prospector who was an abysmal failure in southeastern Utah who noticed when he, even though he couldn't find gold or silver, but he did notice when he drank this funky-tasting water in the stream, the only water source available to him, after a couple of weeks his arthritis went away. And he backtracked this stream and he found that it originated in a prehistoric valley that had a forest in it. And when these trees and brush and grasses took up all the elemental minerals from the soil, converted them to colloidal minerals for their own use, there was a cataclysmic event. That forest was entombed, that valley and that forest was entombed by a volcanic eruption. A very thin layer of mud, ash, and lava, not heavy enough to compress this stuff into coal or oil. And it was very arid in there, not enough moisture to fossilize or petrify this plant material. So today, if you look at it, it just looks like real dark chocolate coffee grounds. And you squeeze it between your fingers, it is the same consistency as a chocolate chip you might put in an oatmeal cookie. It's kind of waxy. That's because it's not rock, it's ground up plant material. We grind this stuff up into a flour, we soak it in a filtered spring water for 4 to 6 weeks, and we leach those colloidal minerals out of those plants that were taken up in the prehistoric days. Things that you can't get out of your soil and your food anymore today. And of course, that's been around since 1926. We have liquid multiples that have been around 10 years and 1 year and so forth, and these are all available to you also. I want to thank you all very much. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless America.